All right. We got us a fun little three-game appetizer of bowl games before we get the main course tomorrow. I'll have some I think I'm going to play some big stuff tomorrow because I like that with the seven gamer. I think there's more opportunity to take advantage. But single entry on this type of stuff, specifically today with a three gamer, makes the most sense for what I want to play bankroll wise. By comparison to, the seven gamer, there's so many more permutations that can be played. So I'm more apt to play the 150 max high dollar stuff, like a normal slate would be, because the permutations are not limiting. The bankroll is not as limiting for me by comparison. So if you take a top 0.1% player, like a PSU fans or, whatever, Fear My Turtle, that's going to be able to play 150 max on one of those high end tournaments, he's going to drop 150 max in there on a three gamer, and you basically can cover almost every permutation at that point. Whereas me playing 5 entries of 150 max, I don't have that same capability to cover enough permutations by comparison. It's really going to be one piece that's going to make the difference here on a three gamer. But 7 games, plenty of optionality, plenty of different permutations that you're not going to need. There's not as much of a limiting factor. We'll say it's limited because the variance is a lot higher on this slate. So talking through this specific one, I think this is a interesting build. We'll run through each team, and I'll kind of point out who I'm going to end up playing on this slate, but I want to give you all the optionality. That way you can kind of make some determinations. I played around a hair with a FanDuel team. Did not like the build I was going to end up on, so kind of decided that I was going to sit FanDuel out today, given that I might have a hard time keeping up with everything and the news cycle. Who knows who's playing in reality? But starting out here, Central Michigan, they're going to be the team that you're going to want the least of on the slate. They got a 16-point team total. Not particularly an interesting team, but we'll talk about them in case somebody wants to take some shots in a dome. We get a couple dome games and a warmer game. So I feel pretty good about weather-wise. We're in decent shape. By comparison, Joe Labas is going to be your starter. He's not particularly good. They throw the ball, they're the fifth, like literally they throw the ball the fifth lowest rate in the country. They're one of the highest run play percentage teams in the country. Joe Labas is going to be the starter, but he's more the passing option. Angel Flores being back is going to be more of the runner. If you want to take shots on Angel Flores, I get it. Look at this 20-point run that he had at 6,300. He's an option, just not a guy that I'd be super enthused about. He might have a pass here or there, but for the most part, he's just a glorified running back masquerading as a quarterback. He's a wildcat guy. So I'm not particularly interested in him. If I was going to take a shot on any Central Michigan guy, it would be Brock Townsend. He's been kind of getting a little bit more work. He's more of the goal line edge area. 9 rushing red zone attempts over his last 2 games. The problem there is Angel Flores was out in those games. Northwestern, not a particularly adept run defense, but what is the difference when you get Big Ten alleged Big Ten talent taking on a MAC team? I think you're going to side with the Big Ten talent. And to Michael's point, he says it looks like a 1 QB build. I tend to agree. This lineup is going to be a 1 QB build for me. Good morning to you as well. Very good Christmas. Not too shabby for us, although my wife is expensive. So we got to win some slates to make back what we had to buy her because she says she was a good girl. We'll see. I don't believe it as much. Wide receiver wise, you want to take shots. So if you take the narrative and say that they're a 10-point dog, they're going to need to throw the ball more. Your shots are going to be on McIntosh, Langston Lewis, and Tyson Davis. Langston Lewis is your team leader in all categories at receiver. He's fine. I just think you're going to full fade these guys. But if you want to take shots on them, Langston Lewis is in play. McIntosh has been fine. He's picked up his production late in the season. That's not terrible at 3,900. Salary, not too much of a limiting factor. Davis has a couple catches in each of the last 4. Hadn't really done much with them. So for my money, I just think I'm out on this Central Michigan team. I think it's far more wise to get a ton of exposure on the back end and Northwestern and just say Central Michigan does not really exist in this spot. Now, I think there's 3 guys that are probably in play for Northwestern. Preston Stone not being one. No rushing upside for the most part. And his passing ability is questionable at best. Could he throw up a 302 like he did against Minnesota? Yeah, I think so. But I'm not going to bet on that. That's not what I'm going to buy. I think Joseph Hyman, he's expected to play, but he's highly questionable. I don't think he ends up with a ton of work in this spot. I would lean on Caleb Komolafe. That would be my preferred play in this situation. He seems likely to play. All of the comments from the head coaching staff indicates he should be available. This is a decent MAC run defense, but at the same time, it's a Big Ten team facing a MAC team, and Komolafe scored a touchdown in 8 of 9. So I will be playing him. He's going to be in there. If he was out, given the limiting factors on Hyman, it would be Robbie Preckle, who got the start like he did against Illinois, 22 carries, 82 yards. He would be in play, not a super hyper efficient back, and not a guy that I'd go out of my way for. But if the news comes out and you got to make a quick switch late, I would just swap from Komolafe to Preckle, call it a day, and then I'll figure out, in that meantime of that game, what I need to do in these final 2. But with all the salary being opened up, it wouldn't be super exciting. But Komolafe, I think, is going to play. Pretty confident in that. Latest news, should play. So I feel pretty good about him. He's going to end up being the one guy that I like the most from this actual game here. Now, there's 2 wide receivers that eat up most of the pass volume. It was 1 for 90% of the season, but at the very end, it ended up with a second option, Griffin Wilde, which took me all season to figure out it was Wilde and not Wild. He's going to be the guy who gets most of the target share. They don't throw the ball a ton. He's extremely viable. I think he's a viable play. I wouldn't hate playing him. No issues whatsoever. We saw it in this Minnesota game, 11 for 111 and 1. He's going to get the most targets out of this. I think you could end up seeing a 7 for 98, a 7 for 94. He's the most likely to score a touchdown. He would be the guy that I would go to if I was going to get a second guy at wide receiver out of this game. Hayden Elegon has come on strong the last 2 weeks with 7 for 127, 8 for 99, representing a stark contrast of a change from early in the season. you can buy into that. Uh, I mean, that was a snow game against Illinois where he managed to throw that one up, which is massively impressive with the 8 inches of snow on the ground. But now they're in a dome. I think Elegon's viable as well if you want to pivot off of Griffin Wilde. I'm going to prefer Komalafe, but I think both of these guys are in play. So basically, out of this game, you're looking at Komalafe, Wilde, and Elegon as your 3 options to be able to play from this game, and that's it. What's up, Myron? Good morning. We did have a lovely Christmas. My folks are now traveling home today, but it was nice to have them around for what little time I did. But now we grind, man. We continue on the grind, That's what we got to do. I hope you all had a lovely Christmas as well out there. I hope you all are all off today, whereas I'll return to work for 1 day and then have 2 days off. But I'll be constantly considering in my head what I'm going to play tomorrow because I do not have the capability to turn that off. So second game on the slate here, New Mexico taking on Minnesota. I find this one to be rather interesting because New Mexico, pretty decent team, well coached under Jason Eck. Minnesota is very interesting, I will say. We've got an opt-out, more than likely. And we've got a team that PJ Fleck gets these guys up for bowl games. Now, what to do with New Mexico? They have a very similar situation at quarterback. There's a low total in this one, 43.5 on top of the 42.5 in the first one. That's why the third game is really the best target. But very similar to Central Michigan, you get the quarterbacks for New Mexico. Jack Lane, he's going to be more of your, passing quarterback. Whereas James Lobstein is going to be your running quarterback. He's run for 40 plus in each of the last 4. I just don't think you can consider either Lane or Lobstein. Like Lane's going to throw for 150, 200 yards. He has a little bit of rushing. Lobstein, he's going to take carries from him. So it's just, I'm avoiding. It's full avoid again. And that's a problem. Running back wise, you could play one of the two. It's hard to do it because unless you're salary limited, because it's definitely a committee back here facing a Minnesota team that is going to be playing hard enough given PJ Fleck's stuff and a Wildcat quarterback that's going to take some stuff. I really do not want to play Bankston. I'm not considering him. I would consider McKinney if I had to pick one. If I ended up in that situation, he scored a touchdown in 5 of 6. He has a lot more red zone rushing opportunities than Bankston has. So I will side with the McKinney side, given the touchdown equity and the ability to catch balls. He's a guy that I was considering on FanDuel when I was looking at the slate, for sure. Yeah, well, hey, Myron, you know what? These might be putrid bowl games, but they are way better than the NFL matchups we had yesterday. Because good gravy, was that some awful stuff. That was bad. But I think there's some stuff to take out of this. It's just, the nightcap should be a fun one. And I think this middle game, so like we're starting out with a terrible game. Northwestern Central Michigan feels like an awful game. This middle game's underrated. New Mexico, well-coached team. So that's an interesting one. And then this one's got fireworks written all over it, personally. But I was a big FIU guy heading into the season. I bet their team total over. They cleared that pretty easily. Really a believer in Willie Simmons and think he'll be a fairly good coach climbing the ladder in the long run. One of those guys that he's just been a winner everywhere he's been. And so I'm a pretty big believer in Willie Simmons as an actual coach, though. Now, as much as I'm okay playing McKinney, there's two guys that I feel best about because this Minnesota secondary has been absolutely awful. Absolutely awful. One of the worst in pass defense success rate on the season, and that's Keegan Johnson and Dorian Thomas. So Johnson and Thomas combine for over 50% of the production out of the pass catching weapons. Johnson being the top option on the outside, former Kansas State Wildcat. He's going to catch a good amount of balls. He sees the most amount of targets. He's the guy that I would lean to if I'm taking a New Mexico guy. He's my top option. And then Thomas would be 2 for me. He has the upside, but I'm more nervous yardage-wise for him to catch explosives. So I prefer Keegan Johnson if I was going to play any of them, but they're kind of last pieces for me. And we'll talk about what the last spot in this lineup, because I have a gut feeling and I'm not particularly enthused about how I want to play it yet. So we'll kind of talk about how we want to play that. Looking at the Minnesota side, I am a Drake Lindsay guy. I think he'll develop and be pretty good. But New Mexico has been pretty good against quarterbacks for the most part. Granted, this is a mismatch, but Lindsay doesn't have any rushing upside. He does have a 2-touchdown rushing game, but that's an aberration. Man's got a negative 104 on the season. He's going to have to be hyper efficient like he was against Northwestern. So like 200 yards would be a positive game out of him. I don't think you're going to see a 300-yard game here. He does have one weapon that I feel pretty certain isn't going to play. So that makes a difference. So he's going to be a little bit limited on that end. Now, this is where things get interesting. You're going to have swaps, just like Komalafe. We know who our swap's going to be. So I think you're going to end up on swaps. If you end up not using salary, you end up not using salary. I'm not worried about that. I just want to play raw points. Darius Taylor has been an absolute menace in bowl games the last couple of years. Do I think he plays Friday? Yes. Or today? I think he does. I feel pretty good about that. He's had lingering injury issues the last few years. He's managed to suit up. And he's run for over 300 yards between those two bowl games. I think he clears the 100-yard mark in this one. New Mexico has been pretty good against the run, but this is different. There's a talent gap here. And look at Taylor's pass catching usage. 4 catches, 6 catches, 4 catches, 4 catches, 6 catches. He did this last year. Anytime he was hyper inefficient on the ground, he made up for it with pass catching. So Darius Taylor is going 100% in my lineup. If he ends up being out, let's say we get a late run here. With AJ Turner gone, I would lean on Cam Davis to be the top option in this backfield. I think he would get 15 plus carries. I would go that direction. If you wanted to go Grant Washington, I'd understand it. But I think he operates as the 2 because the only game he really got work in was that Northwestern State game where they blew him out. So I would go Cam Davis. Cam Davis would operate as the 1. That's a simple 1-for-1 replacement in my eyes. Don't mind making that move. So it's not listed here. Maybe it is currently. Lameek Brockington, he's declared for the draft. It's not even any news notes there. I don't think he ends up playing in this spot. I project him out. So I wouldn't be shocked if he's not there. And realistically, they don't throw the ball a ton, specifically to the wide receivers. But with him out, it comes down to, I think there's reports Jamison Gears could be a soft opt-out. I got that news this morning. Yeah. So Brockington's probably out. Gears is going to be limited and may not play. And then I've got Central Michigan wise, Nairi Biggins is also going to be out. So, and I got some news on the UTSA side as well that came to me this morning. So I think the way this team operates in 3 wide sets is going to be Javon Tracy as the one on the outside. He's had some good games this season. He would be my preferred option. I'm also a Javon Tracy fan going back to Miami of Ohio from a year ago. I was jamming him left, right, and center. He's in contention for your last man in spot. Jalen Smith will be out there. He's more of a deep play threat, a deep shot guy. I think you can take the look, but that one's risky to me. And then Logan Loya, I think, is the third guy on the field. Do I love him? Not really. I would go Tracy in all aspects, and I'm going to limit myself to one Minnesota wideout. It's personally Tracy for me. If you want to take shots on Smith, he could pay out on one long catch, and then Loya could shine, but man, that kid's been bad for a number of years at this point. I've been fooled more than once by him. Now, FIU is an interesting spot because this game features a very high total at 59.5, projects both teams to be around the 30s. Weather looks great for this one. And ultimately, UTSA is going to miss like 6 or 7 of their starters, maybe 8 of their starters on defense. Most of their team is not playing on the defensive side of the football. So we get a Conference USA team that probably be able to hang with an AAC team because of it. Now, it sounds like the offense is mostly going to play for UTSA, which makes it even better. But the other problem is quarterback-wise, you got Willie Simmons saying in media press conferences that if they were playing 9 days ago, it was going to be Clayton Dees getting the start. And then recently, we've started getting some betting numbers come out that say Keon Jenkins is going to play. That's a good, indicator here. But then you got Joe Pazanski, who they think should also be available, maybe. So you got Jenkins, you got Pazanski. That's the original first and second quarterback. Jenkins, it sounds like, is going to play. That is your ultimate GPP. I want to win this thing play is to play Keon Jenkins. He's got a little bit of rushing ability. He throws the ball fairly well. I like the kid. I think he's a quality player. If you wanted to take a shot, I don't hate taking a shot on him. Ooh. Who is it, Myron? I haven't even looked. I haven't looked at pricing tomorrow. Is it Wiegman? I was kind of hoping it'd be Wiegman. I don't even know what 7 games are, actually. Kind of know, but I don't know. I know the Houston's playing LSU. But I do love me some Wiegman coming back. But yeah, there's a lot of guys we like. Yeah, I would say if you want to take a shot in one GPP, I don't hate the shot on Keon Jenkins. He's got a good stack partner and a high team to Mestebaker. He has been practicing. That's interesting. They probably thought he was going to leave already. Okay, well, that's interesting. Now, FIU wise, I'm going Keon Owens. Keon. Yeah, I'm going Owens here. If he opts out, we'll figure it out. Me personally, I think he plays in this one. If he doesn't play, you've got Anthony Carey sitting there who's going to work in, and you got. I wouldn't consider Sterling Joseph personally. That was an aberration of a 4 for 112. It would be Carey. I thought Lyons would have a bigger year this year, but he really didn't work in. So if Owens is out, your swap option straight to Anthony Carey in this spot. So I'm going to play this game through two weapons for FIU, and then I'm going to play it through a lot of UTSA. Wide receiver wise for FIU, you just saw it. You know, there's not a ton of volume in this offense as far as like massive amounts of yardage, but Alex Perry has done his best to reignite what Chris Mitchell and Eric Rivers and Dean Thompson have done for the last couple years. UTSA's secondary is basically gone. So you got a bona fide one. I mean, look at this 36, 22, 23, 24. Like, I'm just, that's a lock. Just give me the kid. Give me Alex Perry. He's pretty good. So I will take the shot there. I don't really particularly interested in anybody else, but we want plays from this game. We're going to get it through Owens and Perry. I do not hate if you go Keon Jenkins, though. You want to go there. You want to go there. Realistically, there's one quarterback option on this slate, and that's you're feeling very comfortable with, and that's Owen McCown. Just keep an eye on UTSA guys entering the portal, but McCown's the safest option. He's got the most likelihood to throw for 300 yards on the slate. There's a lot of guys that barely throw, a lot of guys that don't run, or that, you got guys that are part-time throwers and part-time runners all over the place on this one. And the other guys you have don't really run and don't really throw. So McCown's the top option, not particularly close for me personally. And then I will mix and match. You could easily put in like a Angel Flores. You could put in a Drake Lindsay. You could put in a Keon Jenkins. That would be kind of the guys that I would look to. Preston Stone, not super interested in. If I was playing Preston Stone, I'm going to play him with at least Wildy and or both Northwestern wide receivers. And I would probably fade Komalafe at that point. Otherwise, Robert Henry, I think, ends up getting some steam because there's plenty of salary to save here. And I have zero interest in Robert Henry. He started the year like a banshee the first 4 weeks of the season and has been absolutely awful ever since. If I was going to play anybody at running back for UTSA, it's Will Henderson. He's been far more effective and has a little bit of pass catching. He's run the ball particularly well over the course of the season. I would play Will Henderson more so than Robert Henry, but Henry is like the redshirt senior who's been there, done that. But man, yeah, it kind of is. So last week against Army, it was 13 carries for Henry, 6 for Henderson, and Henry started. So it kind of reverted back to him. He's just been awful. And I don't know that he plays, doesn't play, who knows on this situation. I'm not paying 7,100 for Robert Henry in this spot. I'm just going to end up avoiding the situation completely based on where I'm at. This is a bad FIU run defense. Give it up over 30 points per game and run on to backs. So it could really be the decision here as to which one do you want to play. I'm just going to lean into the wideouts for me and play it that way. And then that way I just don't even have to worry about it. I'd understand if you want to go Robert Henry based on he's a senior and you think he gets more work. I'd understand if you want to go Will Henderson and say he's been better for much of the season. I prefer slightly Henderson because of the cost. I do prefer slightly Henderson, but I want to go get some big boys at the wide receiver position where I know volume is going to be. So if you want volume, I mentioned a guy being out. Houston Thomas will not play in this spot. I am a Houston Thomas fan. He has gotten me some weird 2 touchdown games, plenty of times, specifically the last couple of years. He will be out. That's going to open the door for Patrick Overmeyer to be more involved. Would have some interest in him with multiple rushing attempts and pass catching. So he has some upside. I don't hate Overmeyer, but I don't think I really need to go there. He was supposed to be better than he was, but he also has gotten a lot better over the last part of the season. I've got salary, and we see it. So I'm 100% wanting Devin McEwen and David Amador. Amador came into the hype the season a little more ballyhooed, but has really come on strong over the last month of the season. FIU has been absolutely torched on the back end. McEwen got hot, and then AJ Wilson's going to be the team's number 3, but I'm not really going to go there. I am going Wilson's been moderately okay, but Amador is the talent guy, 5'5", 4. He had a 10 for 113. It's in there. I started the year extremely slow, and ever since that 10 for 113, he's been on fire. And then you look at McEwen, 7 catches, 8 catches in 3 of his 4. I like that. So I'm going to buy McEwen. I think he's a hell of a good player. So give me that. That's going to leave me $5,500 for a super flex. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So $5,500 for a super flex. I think there's 3 guys that I'm super interested in. Man, this is one of those situations where I wonder if one of these like Como Olafe or Taylor don't play. Do I end up just going, screw it, I'm going to bite it and go to Henry? That might be what happens, right? If I end up being able to save a ton of salary, I'll just go grab Henry and call it a day and go UTSA. Just Robert Henry has given me the blade before in a bowl game. I'm fairly certain. Definitely UTSA backs have given me an absolute just domination. Who was it? There was a guy. It was either 2024 or 2023 in a bowl game. So let's see. That was 44-15. I got to know who this was now because I remember this guy. It wasn't Rocco Griffin. It might have been UTEP that gave me the blade. Maybe I'm mixing the two. Or was it Kavorian Barnes? Let's see. I got 3 options here. 2022, Kavorian Barnes, 132. No, that didn't kill me. That's fine. Last year, Brandon High. No, maybe not. Maybe it was that UTEP team because I used to always play Frank. Or no, what's his name? Anyway, I used to always play the other kid. Well, Robert Henry had 2 touchdowns last year in the bowl game, or 2 years ago in the bowl game. But yeah, I think if you get down there, you can go up there. If you were going to pay up for anybody, it would be him because you're not going to be able to pay for Griffin Willoughby once that game starts. So with $5,500 left, I think if you go down, you're either playing Henderson or Henry. You have to make that decision if you end up going down. Maybe you end up swapping at that point. But as currently constructed, if everybody plays, I think your decision comes down to McKinney as the top option at the running back position. Excuse me. I think it comes down to McKinney. Comes down to Keegan Johnson. And then for me, I understand you could go Elegon. I think that does make sense. There is viability in that. I just don't want to trust that. So it comes down to Tracy. Now, this is the struggle that I'm having in my head 1,000%. because natural intuition says take Keegan Johnson. You get the top wide receiver. You say New Mexico plays from behind, Minnesota plays from out in front. Taylor gets the work. You play Keegan Johnson. That's the simple answer. It's probably the answer everybody goes with, in fairness. And Keegan Johnson's playing really well right now. The secondary from Minnesota is absolutely atrocious. It's very hard not to go that direction. So intuition tells me, and plus it spends all the salary, which you end up, natural inclination is to say spend all the salary. Me personally, I would not go to McKinney at 5,300. If I was making this decision and wanting to pivot off of Johnson, it would be Elegon or Tracy for me. I would prefer Tracy personally. So my initial reaction was to just play Tracy. And I'm deciding between Tracy and Johnson. I'm leaning Johnson for now, but I am tempted. I got to swap those again. So I'm leaning this. So that's probably what I end up playing. I will play Tracy on my late team because I do like Tracy a lot. And I'm going to play, I think I'm going to end up playing 2 quarterbacks on the late team with Drake Lindsay. Although it could just end up being I swap McCown for, I don't know. I have options. I can play Keon Jenkins. I can play Lindsay. I can play Robert Henry. So that's kind of I don't know quite yet what I'm going to play. But it might end up being a Keon Jenkins. I might swap to him. But very similarly, it's going to be Minnesota. It's going to be UTSA, and it's going to be FIU, and that's going to be the main teams that I want to play. So anyway, all right, we'll have a big one tomorrow. So I'm going to knock this one out. Portal's getting very interesting. I think there's going to be a lot to see there. I think Saturday's slate is our last great slate as far as I'm concerned, as far as big set of games goes. But we'll have some good games going forward. After that, just not big slates. It's our last 7, more than 3 games, 4 games, really. We get a 7-gamer on a Saturday. We'll be able to keep up with everything and take some advantage of opt-outs or any of that stuff because there's going to be plenty on that. But, yeah, good luck to everybody tonight. Keep an eye on all this stuff. Set alarms, like I say, every 15 to 20 minutes before each game. Keep an eye out for that stuff. Give a look, and wish y'all all the best today. Hopefully we carry some luck from today, and then we get primed up and get